I was leaving the House floor. You're still required to wear a mask on the House floor. And frankly, Jim, I just forgot to take my mask off once I came out of the building. I love having my mask off now. Greene's aide said, "Take your mask off, Congressman." And I kept walking past, and I thought, you know what? I'm tired of this shit. These marauding goons who are going around trying to bully my other colleagues. So I just went up to him and asked him who he was, and I told him, "Don't tell me what to do," with some words that you can't say on CNN, and predictably he went speechless. But this is not the way it works around here. I've worn a staff badge and I've worn a member pin. And when I was a staffer, I would never talk to a member of Congress like that. And my staffers tell me all the time they would love to talk to Marjorie Taylor Greene and tell her what they think of her policies, but there's still decorum and respect. And I think people are just losing patience with Greene.
If Marjorie Taylor Greene and her aide's strategy is to make themselves seem like the biggest clowns amid a party that currently has no shortage of clowns, then I'd say they're off to a good start. Now, I should note right off the bat that this situation that went down with Eric Swalwell wasn't the exception, it was the rule. It was on purpose, because the GOP doesn't measure success by virtue of how many bills you pass, or how much legislation you craft, or, dear God, how you've been able to help your constituents. Success on the right is measured by the extent to which you control people, how many insightful comments you can tweet, and how many stunts you can pull, and how many antics go viral on social media. They all saw how Donald Trump was effectively rewarded for being the world's biggest troll and conspiracy theorist and bully, and because they're all driven by their own personal ambitions, they're just trying to recreate his strategy. And so what we're left with is a bunch of mini, desperate Donald Trumps trying their hardest to get a rise out of anyone with a pulse. Now, as far as masks go, let's just be honest here, this is the culture the GOP has created. A culture where they think it's some type of an own to make fun of someone for wearing a mask during a pandemic. Like, wow, you really showed me for taking a basic step to make sure I don't end up on a ventilator. Got me good for pointing out how I'm attempting to survive. Somewhere along the line, the pro-life party decided that making even a minimal effort to survive lost its cool. In reality, the reason for this is simple. The GOP was forced to adopt an anti-mask, anti-science approach to the entire pandemic, all because that's what Trump did when he was president. Trump decided that any measures to stop the spread of the virus were bad because they validated the very existence of the virus, and that was a step too far for him. He wanted to just pretend that it didn't exist, that it was no big deal, and so he pushed back against masks, against stay-at-home orders, against social distancing, and because Trump did, so did every other Republican. And because they started that way, now they're pot committed. Now they're stuck opposing every single basic measure that is only intended to help people live. But hey, all worth it to suck up to Trump, am I right? The fact is that the stupidity of avoiding masks during a pandemic is already blatantly obvious. It's a simple solution that increases your own chances of safety and survival exponentially. The science is already clear on that. But beyond that, to continue not just avoiding, but disparaging masks after watching more than 500,000 people die in what's become the third biggest mass casualty event in American history is just aggressively idiotic. And that's not to say that people can't make the decision to be idiotic, because they're certainly free to do so, but I'm also free to call it like it is, and it's idiotic. What makes the least sense is that once the devastating effects of this virus became apparent, the people who were in the most danger were those avoiding masks. So when Donald Trump stood on the Truman balcony of the White House and triumphantly took off his mask while infected with COVID, or when Tucker Carlson fosters vaccine hesitancy on a nightly basis by virtue of just asking questions, the people most likely to suffer are the ones who listen to them. And of course, it becomes dangerous for others too, the innocent people who those initial anti-maskers come into contact with at restaurants or wherever. But what's clear is that encouraging someone not to wear a mask has no upside and a lot of downside. At the end of the day, this is what sums up the difference between the two parties. Democrats have taken steps over the last year to ensure that people are safe, to make sure that the most people survive as possible. Republicans have taken steps guaranteeing that lives would be lost, all in service of pandering to just one man. To see more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe. And for a deeper dive, check out my podcast, No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen, where I discuss the week's top stories and interview major players in the world of politics, like Vice President Kamala Harris, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki, Elizabeth Warren, Chuck Schumer, Katie Porter, Pete Buttigieg, Nancy Pelosi, and many more. Again, that's No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen, available anywhere you listen to podcasts.